excitement, I am pleased to welcome Puan Anita Abu Bakar with the talk, Working Towards an Inclusive Society. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. May I know who is moderating? Do we begin? How does it work?
Yeah, it's me.
Sorry, Farisha, is it? Or is Farisha, are you the moderator? I'm not getting any response, guys. I would really appreciate someone to guide us.
Yes, I am. Uh, wait.
Puan Anita, sorry for the delay. We will start over the program. So MC, can you start over? Welcoming Puan Anita. Thank you.
Okay, so I will start again. I will share a little bit of Puan Anita background. So she pursued her tertiary education at Tulsa University, Oklahoma, in the United States in computer information system with a minor in management information system. She holds an MBA in Islamic Banking and Finance from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, IIUM. Our guest speaker today is a strong and known advocate for mental health and social issues. She initiated the first peer-led mental health advocacy and support group in Malaysia, and is also actively involved in educating the public and making herself and peers heard by her participants as a guest speaker and panelist in many conferences and programs nationally and internationally. So the same inspiring guest will be giving us a talk on what I believe can benefit us greatly. So therefore, with a great pleasure and excitement, I am pleased to welcome Puan Anita Abu Bakar with her talk, Working Towards an Inclusive Society. Please welcome.
All right, thank you very much, Farisha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everyone. Okay, I don't know what happened with the delay because I assumed we were supposed to begin at 8:45. So hopefully I'll be able to finish my slides in about 40 to 45 minutes. There's actually a lot to cover, but I will probably skip some of the slides and then I will go ahead and share it. Or my staff will go ahead and share it with your side, and then hopefully you guys can go through the slides as well, yeah? Okay, please do let me know, Farisha, because once I begin sharing, I'm not going to be able to see anyone, so I would appreciate the respond if you can hear and also see my slides and hear my video, yeah? Farisha?
Okay, yes, I can see your slide.
Thank you, appreciate that. All right. Okay, so you can see it, yeah? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about working towards an inclusive society in the context of mental health. And first and foremost, I just want to say congratulations for bringing forth a very important and much needed topic, especially now being in, the post-pandemic and endemic. Obviously, a lot of people have been impacted psychologically, emotionally, financially, being students as well. As you remember when the pandemic first started, right? A lot of us were cut off obviously from our social support system. We had to go through that quantum leap of online learning, not being able to, meet our friends physically and our lecturers as well. So that was, something very challenging. And obviously those that, just began, college and university, and then being isolated, within your own, dormitory as an example, and of course confined in your own homes and spaces. So I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about Miyasa. It's very important for those of you that are listening and watching today to understand, Miyasa's role and our friends on the ground in the community, because recovery is indeed in the community, and we want to strive towards a more inclusive society so that, nobody needs to be left behind anymore, and nobody needs to really end their lives, or, end, in tragedies as an example, right? Which is very, very unfortunate. So with Miyasa, we always begin with our why. So what we do is, as much as possible, helping people and saving lives, inshallah dengan izin Allah. And we can all advocate effectively. We can all advocate more effectively together by joining the community. And obviously we would like to, as much as possible, empower everyone in the community, because at the end of the day, we live together, we don't live alone. And if we help one another, if we empower one another, then everyone wins in this journey in dunya. So this is very much what we hope will happen. So obviously now that we're doing this online, my slides are now stuck. So let me just share my screen again. Let me know if you see it. Can you see my slides, Shafiqa?
Yes, yes.
Oh, but it's still not moving. I apologize. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's start now and here. And this is a campaign that we did in 2019, actually called the Great Minds Campaign. Very synonym with the work that we do at MIASA, which is combating stigma. And this was done in collaboration with the Malaysian Mental Health Association, supported by Yayasan Sandabi and Sandabi Property. So just lean back and enjoy the video, yeah?
Berkena dengan dia.
Boleh dengar, Farisha?
As if we could tell what is wrong about a person from what is right just on sight. As if wrong was just a simple matter of right or left. That if you're right, then you won't be left to wonder on your own if it is normal to feel left out and be all alone. That you have to deserve fitting right in. So you keep everything in, because what matters is what's inside of you. The more you keep, the better you think you get. Because people only understand different when it is an accent or a color or a sin. So even when your body is breaking from within, you try to behave the same as everyone else, despite feeling that you're lying through your teeth. Spirits seeping through stitches that grafted their words onto your skin. Man up! Orang lain lagi susah lah. I turned out okay. Get over it. Sikit-sikit pun salah. Don't mind them. They didn't mean it. You don't deserve to live. Wonder what it would be like if they actually meant it. It already felt like they did. Maybe that was why some of us tried giving up. Living was already hard enough because it works a little differently for us than it does everyone else. So we tried to find ways to set our minds to rest, only to discover that dying was harder. Our souls just wouldn't let go, and our minds couldn't tell why. You start wondering what is wrong with your body. Sometimes it feels like the wrong body, where your heart is an old car doing 180 and every interaction is a traffic collision because every pulse is like an accident about to happen but never really does, feeling like it already did, until crashing is the only way of resting that you can think of. You wonder if your body could last the distance. It's gonna break because your spirits feel like it already did. Maybe that's why some of us drown ourselves in them, because that's the only way to raise them when you're sinking. Because addiction is the only way you hold on to something. The same way how memories hold on to you. And the regrets, the meds, silences, the comments on your timeline, their voices. Berkena dengan dia. Hati dia gelap. She looks depressed. He likes to be by himself. Dia kena buat. Dia kena bersyukur. Dia kena ingat Tuhan. Like how they do. Using God's name in vain to say He created everyone the same. Not realizing there is a difference between equality and reality, and how that affects your sanity while still having the audacity to treat you differently. This is a matter of the mind. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Since they don't mind, we don't matter. It's about time we all do. We're all great minds in the making. Refine our senses, assign our minds to read the signs and learn the symptoms instead of being quick to define. Realize that some minds are more like minds that can be tripped by our lines, turning bodies into battlefields of a war that is lost in the silences. When a heart breaks in a room and there is no one else around, does it make a sound? Stigma is the lock we put outside that room, keeping them in. It is a label that we put on that door saying, leave them, because we were too afraid to listen, to look at ourselves, only to ask too late, what did he mean? When did she say? Why didn't we see? What did we do? Kena dengan dia. Instead of just asking, apa khabar?
All right, thank you so much everyone for watching. So this was the hashtag Apa Khabar campaign. I'm not able to see anyone and I don't have any names to call out. So maybe Farisha, what did you, if I may ask, well, what do you think you got out of the video that we just watched?
I think like people not must reach out the person, not just watching from afar and just assume that the person is like crazy or something. That's what I can gain from the video.
All right. Yeah, so this video is actually about stigma. And if you know, looked at the video, it's really impactful where, you know, it really provides insights on how what is really happening in society and how prevalent it is, right? So stigma does not only exist, you know, within society in Malaysia, but obviously across the globe. But one of the silver linings, alhamdulillah, that has happened via this pandemic is now we're able to normalize this discussion so much. And because we are all affected and impacted, that we now have a glimpse of what mental health struggles are all about. So stigma in society that we typically or often hear would be men up, right? Especially when it's a boy, it's a guy. In our culture, not just the Malay culture, Chinese and Indian is the same, really. You know, boys don't cry, you know, men up, you know, as leaders of the family, showing or, you know, showing your vulnerability or that you're struggling mentally, portrays weakness in that sense. Dia kena ingat Tuhan. And typically when we talk about mental health struggles or a clinical diagnosis of a mental health condition, is usually a person is weak-willed or they're not, you know, praying enough, you know, they have a lot of sins in the past, etc., etc. So stigma is very much attached to mental health conditions. There's a lot of shame and there's a lot of fear, and the harm of it is obviously people then or individuals then feel very afraid and very ashamed to reach out for the help that they very much need and require. Lepas tu lagi satu apa yang kita selalu dengar, takut aku nak kawan dengan orang mental. Jadi the word mental itself is also highly stigmatized. The profession of psychiatry is also highly stigmatized. You know, you're not, if for example, you know, you were to meet your psychiatrist at a shopping mall, you're not going to be proud and, you know, want to introduce your psychiatrist to your friends as an example, right? So it's also a profession that is highly stigmatized. And so conversations like today are very important to normalize these discussions, and hopefully people feel more encouraged to reach out for the help. Peer support changes lives, and peer support is evidence-based. We at MIASA, we are a peer group, and there is a lot of evidence when it comes to peer support groups, networks, and also programs, and it has been evidence-based since 1999 actually, so dah lama, about 23 years now. And obviously when we sit in a group setting, dalam keadaan berjemaah ya, and we are all going through something really similar. So in this context, it would be mental health challenges that the camaraderie, the common struggles that we go through makes us feel that we're not alone, which is really important because usually this condition makes you feel truly alone. And if you lack the knowledge, you would then believe that, you know, your condition is unique. So it makes you feel hopeless and trapped within your condition and you don't see the way out. So being in settings like this will give you a sense of hope. You will be able to see and find inspiration through people that have gone through the recovery process effectively. So that empowerment, you know, that sense of belonging, seeing your peers going through that recovery journey, learning from each other will enable you to go through that recovery process more effectively as well. So at MIASA, what we strive to do as much as possible is combating stigma. We want to strive, you know, towards a more inclusive society for everyone, because people with disabilities, especially people with mental health condition, typically are left furthest in society, right, in the context of inclusion and human rights. And this is the whole reason why, you know, there is the UNCRPD World Conference happening in New York City at the moment, where Senator Rasadiba is there. And hopefully when she comes back, you know, we'll be able to progress further in the ratification of, you know, a couple of articles that haven't been ratified, and of course ratifying the optional protocol via this convention, which is obviously the biggest convention ever in human history. And our pillars. So what we do is we strive in obviously, you know, promoting awareness on the importance of mental health, correcting the many misconceptions when it comes to mental health disorders and people struggling with it. A bulk of our work is, of course, advocacy. to even today, with what we're doing today, it's not only awareness, it's also advocating it, right? Relief support and also livelihood support. And these are the services that we provide. Very important for everyone to know what the services are, so that if you are indeed struggling, you can come to us and get the help that you need, or you can also channel, your loved ones, share our page as an example, or follow it, so that, help is within your reach. Yeah. So we've got peer support, family support, circle time, which is a support group session, WhatsApp, consultation. We can also visit individuals in their own homes if they're not able to, for whatever reason it might be. We also have a 24/7 crisis helpline, 1-800-8200-66, which operates 24/7. We'll also provide other kinds of services or alternatives that can be of help to individuals that maybe are not able to articulate or express what they're going through, verbally. So we've got, art therapy, expressive dance therapy, drama, speech as well. We can also do mental health assessment. We also provide psychological services for those that, prefer to do, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or other therapies, spiritual therapy as well, counseling, supported employment for those that find it.
Setengah kosong tu apa? Dia nak
Um,
session.
Oh, guys, can you mute yourselves? Thank you. Supported employment
Duit lah.
programs,
Kejap tak kat
volunteering
ni.
opportunity.
Kalau macam ni kita bagi duit je kan.
Aisha, can you mute your mic, please? Volunteering opportunities, etc. So these are some of the services that we provide. And of course, because of the pandemic, another silver lining is the birth of telehealth. So now we are able to provide all these services, or we migrated all these services online, and we continue to have these services. So both, we've resumed our on-site services, and we continue to do online services as well. So just to give you a little bit of insights on how overstretched we are, and how many people today are braver, feel more encouraged to reach out for the help. I'm very, very happy to see this. So hopefully, people don't no longer struggle alone and in silence, and they can get that help and that support that they need to go through that recovery process effectively in the community. 21,000 from January until May via various platforms. And after our MCO happened, we tallied our numbers, so it's about 113,000. So obviously this is a huge number. And this is our crisis helpline, 1-800-8200-66. Please do share this across. You never know who's struggling and who might need this, and especially those that are battling suicidal thoughts and ideation. Yeah. So just a little bit about the overview in Malaysia. So we are looking at about 500,000 of Malaysians feeling depressed even before the pandemic hit. About 1,081 Malaysians tried ending their lives in 2020. If you guys remember, even last year, yeah, there were a lot of videos, a lot of pictures that went viral. People or individuals that, tried to end their lives by suicide. And one of the harms, one of the big harms of doing this is you may trigger those that are, more vulnerable, and suicide contagion and suicide copycats will happen. And this is supported obviously by a lot of data and evidence. So when you see, in the news, for example, it's not just about ethical reporting, it must be safe reporting as well. So if you disclose methods and locations, you don't protect the privacy of individuals and families, this will, really trigger and people will continue to end their lives if indeed they know that these, methods can work in that sense. So it must be safe always. So the most responsible thing that we can all do is, the moment you see these videos or it's being shared, even photographs, please delete it immediately. Yeah. So in Malaysia, we're looking at about 29.2% of Malaysians aged 16 years old and above that are going through a mental health issue. This is about 4+ million people, which is a big number, yeah. And this was done, or this survey was done in 2015, and we're also looking at 24% of those ages 60 years old and above And mental health problems among children, 424,000. And this is a big number. It's a worrying number. And half of all mental health conditions begin at the age of 14 years old. So obviously this discussion is very important. What can we do about it? How do we help one another? How do we empower one another in this process? Yeah. So we're looking at causes of mental health issues in Malaysia, 40% in the capital city and 43% in the rural areas. Obviously, people that are in rural areas, they're more susceptible because there are more consistent stressors in that sense. Kan kalau kita cakap kais pagi makan pagi, kais petang makan petang in that sense. And when the pandemic happened, a huge contributing factor was, of course, financial difficulties. A lot of people lost jobs. There was a lot of people that went through reduction in income, started their own business, until today stuck with debt. Maybe the businesses that they tried out or ventured in is not successful. Hence, they're now still, within that struggle. And so let's, not think that or not have that perception where now it's the endemic, the economy has opened up, that people are not struggling today. A lot of people are still struggling, especially those that are going through severe conditions, long COVID as an example, and also having existing mental health condition that are further exacerbated because of these factors, and of course the pandemic as a whole. So top mental health issues in the Malaysian population, we're looking at acute stress disorder. Obviously, a lot of people are stressed out today. Anxiety and depression, very common mental health condition across the globe prior to the pandemic, now within post-pandemic and endemic, throughout human history, really. When we look at, any kind of pandemic, endemics, war, famine, a lot of people do go through and experience and are being diagnosed with a clinical diagnosis of anxiety disorder and also depressive disorders. Adjustment disorders, obviously, because we're going through so much of uncertainties. Today it's okay, tomorrow it's not okay. So all these uncertainties does, overwhelm understanding. A lot of people feel very overwhelmed. They don't really know, what to expect. And even when we were all going through this pandemic, right, it was as if, dekat mana penghujung niya sebenarnya? When does it end, right? So we went on and on and on with all the lockdowns, with all the various SOPs, and it confused the public. Remember when we were all in that situation? So people are potentially are more susceptible to adjustment disorders during these periods, especially students, that probably just went overseas to study, and now you find yourself confined in your own dormitories or rooms, as an example, right? And being cut off from your social support system, and then being far away for the first time from your families, as an example, and then having to learn or to go through that quantum leap of doing virtual learning, etc. So it was a lot, all in all, for everyone. So when we bring it to the context of youth and mental health issues, we are looking at 1 in 5 depressed, 2 in 5 anxious, and 1 in 10 stressed. And suicidal ideation are highest amongst Form 1 students. And as you grow older, it kind of reduces, because Form 1 is when it's a new school, you're now going through a new adventure. Maybe you don't know anyone, you don't have a good social support system yet. And then changes in hormones, for example, especially for the girls, so a lot of challenges during this age period. And of course, you're still trying to find your identity, etc. And 10% of children and young people aged 5 to 16 have a clinical diagnosis or diagnosable mental health problem, but 70%, which is a huge number, have not had appropriate interventions at an early age. And a lot of it is because lack of knowledge, especially amongst parents, and kids don't necessarily know how to articulate it, or they may not know that they are indeed going through mental health issues and struggles, because sometimes it can manifest in physical symptoms, and you might think that you're not physically healthy when it's actually a manifestation of mental health struggles in that sense. Yeah. So the vision of MIASA, and this was actually some resolutions that came about through a Malaysian stakeholder meeting that we we did end of 2019. So it's fighting stigma and discrimination, providing supported accommodation and housing rights, employment rights, accessing healthcare, quality healthcare, and safe, definitely, and closing down mental institutions, and also safe media reporting guidelines on suicide. Okay, so maybe we can discuss a little bit. So let's learn together before I proceed further. Mental health problems don't affect me. So what do you guys think? I see that we have Hanisa. Hanisa, are you here? What do you think? Mental health problems don't affect me. What do you think about this statement?
For me, I think that it is not possible because in my surrounding, I think mental health problems does affect me. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it's not important to me.
Right, exactly, right? Mental health problems affect everyone, right? We're human beings at the end of the day, like how we all can go through and encounter physical problems, right? So similarly to a mental health problem, it's the same. And in Malaysia, 1 in 3 struggle from a mental health problem, which we've seen, and everyone is susceptible. If enough factors are present, anyone can be afflicted with a condition. Doesn't mean that if you're a psychiatrist, you can't get a mental health condition, even if you are a doctor, a medical doctor, right? Or if you are a spiritual healer or an ustaz in that sense, or even if you're a mom or a dad, if you're a professional, anyone is susceptible to the condition. Okay, the next one. Children and teenagers don't experience mental health problems. Obviously, we've seen this, it's not true. 75% of mental health disorders begin before the age of 24, and 50% of it begin at the age of 14 years old. Yeah. The next one, statement number 3, personality weakness or character flaws cause mental health problems. What do you think? I have Masha Ashikin. Masha Ashikin, what do you think? Is this true? Personality weakness. And what does that even mean, right? Personality weakness, character flaws, right? Flaws in your character. Um, does it cause mental health problems? Misha?
Hi, can you hear
Hello.
my voice?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So in my opinion, because I think people kind of have like what do we call it? Their insecurity with themselves. So sometimes that lead to mental health problem. Like they think they are not good enough. They think others best than themselves. So that can lead to stress, depression, anxiety. So that is my opinion.
Right, right. That's actually a very good point, right? Having low self-esteem, not feeling confident, always being told that you're not good enough. And then, that like there was this one saying, it's not that children stop loving you, children stop loving themselves. And this is the harm that we don't see. So hopefully the buck stops at us. And with this information, we're able to change and create a safer world, yeah, for the future generation and the generations that follow, inshallah. And obviously, many factors contribute to mental health problems, not just one thing, like you mentioned, yeah. So it's not just about feeling of hopelessness or worthlessness in that sense, but it must be multifactorial. So it could be biological factors, maybe chemical imbalances in the brain, could be trigger factors, something that happened within the pandemic, because obviously with the pandemic, there's a lot of contributing factors, right? Risk factors have increased, suicide, risk to suicide has also increased. So these are all contributing factors that may lead to one person falling into anxiety, depression, etc. And obviously, the combination of all these factors makes a person more susceptible. So I think one of the most important things for all of us to understand is it must be multifactorial, right? It can't just be one thing. And it also needs a build-up of time, right? So maybe before the pandemic, we were already really stressed. And so when the pandemic happened, obviously with all these different factors present, then that made it enough for us to then orang kata meletup kan, and jadi ataupun berlakunya penyakit mental. And of course, trauma, yeah? A lot of students, a lot of people go through trauma. Bullying is one thing that I feel that we don't talk enough about. Bullying is one big contributing factor as well, yeah. And also, and of course, being orang kata sexually abused. It could be, many forms of abuse as we are growing up. So it becomes a very traumatic experience. And, in combination with everything else that happens, and of course, life happens, that it can lead to a mental health condition. So yeah, so what is mental health? Yeah, what is mental health? What is a mental health condition, or what is mental illness? Because usually when we talk about mental health conditions, we refer it to mental illness. And how we have mental health, we also have physical health. So how we have physical health, that is how we have mental health, right? But one is here and the other one is physical. And so what does it mean, right? Mental health. It means, how do we manage, the daily stressors that we go through? How do we go through our daily lives? How do we contribute to society? How do we interact with our family members or friends, as an example, right? So this is all mental health. Components wise, we've got emotional, social, spiritual, physical, psychological, and also cognitive. And a mental health disorder or mental illness is like a physical illness, right? It's an illness, it's a condition. It can be treated. And if you treat it, if you have the support, if you get help, and if it's effective, and it's the recovery or the approach to your recovery process is a holistic one, then you can go through that recovery process effectively. Yeah. So factors that can lead to a mental health disorder. So a lot of times people ask me, Juanita, if my mom has it, will I, does it guarantee that I will get a mental health condition as well? And, we become worried about it, right? That there is no way to prevent it. So that's when knowledge comes in. There are, of course, a factor that we call predisposing factors, that if, your mom or your dad has it, then you are more susceptible to it, but you cannot inherit a mental health condition. Okay, so take care of your mental health. Maybe if there are complications when your mom, she was pregnant with you, as an example, that could be, one of the predisposing factors. But that factor alone, guys, is not enough. Okay, you need a precipitating factor. So it could be, like I mentioned earlier, a specific event or trigger, and also perpetuating factors that make the condition endure. So it could be late in getting treatment, it could be severity of the condition, it could be not enough treatment that you're getting during the time, right? So in combination, you are more susceptible. Risk factors, definitely, poverty, if you are within the rural areas, as mentioned, consistent stressors, you are more prone. Low mental health literacy or family violence, as an example. Substance abuse, most definitely. If you are misusing drugs or alcohol, and a lot of times, if you look at news reporting, you will find that a lot of times when these kind of tragedies happen, people always say, oh, dia tu mesti mental, without realizing that there is a component of substance involved in it. And that's why, people can become aggressive, because people with mental health condition, based on data and research, are 10 times more likely to become victims themselves, right? So I think this is one of the misconception that happens a lot in society. And people that have, or individuals that go through a medical condition, so for example, like thyroid, could mirror anxiety and depression as well. So we need to rule that out as well. But of course, people that go through critical conditions like cancer, they are more prone in getting a mental health disorder. So as you can see, there are a lot of factors, and it's not just one thing. Yeah. So what can you do, and how do you recognize these symptoms? So these are generally signs of poor mental health. So losing interest or withdrawal from activities that you like, you feel helpless, you feel very fatigued, you're not able to concentrate, you feel very irritable, you get very emotional, you're not able to contain these emotions, kan? Mungkin tiba-tiba meletup, contohnya marah, kan? Unexplained aches or pains, katalah sakit tengkuk, sakit belakang, these kind of things are also symptoms. Appetite and weight changes. So if you see that change in that pattern of your eating habits, then that is definitely a sign. Then you feel pessimistic. And then at the end, you think about, maybe intrusive suicidal thoughts, ending your life. Not necessarily in behavior, but just in thoughts as well. So what can you do to take care of your mental health? So a lot of times we focus a lot on physical health, but in taking care of your mental health, these are some of the things that we can do, and we know it. It's just that we might not be investing in it enough on a daily basis. And especially if you are already having a clinical diagnosis of a mental health condition, then taking care of your mental health must be an everyday job, okay? So having a sleep routine, taking care of your sleep hygiene, having enough sleep. So you want to make sure that you sleep before 11 o'clock, because at 11 is when your body repairs itself. You're able to, focus the next day. You have more clarity. So you want to bank in that 6 to 8 hours. Eating well and on time, that nutritious, balanced diet, yeah. Exercising, definitely. You want to induce those good hormones. Doing things that you like, invest in hobbies, guys. Find what your passion is and invest in that. You need to, okay? Self-care is really important. Engaging in volunteering work, making or helping others, making others feel happy, making yourself useful for others. These are all ways that you can induce these good hormones, yeah? Give to charity, attending spiritual classes. Despite whatever religion you are, it's really important for all of us to understand, what is our purpose in life? How do we add more meaning to it? And why is there a lot of suffering, in this dunya, when, God is most merciful, most loving? And so these things and these reminders are really important for us to really understand, the afflictions and adversities that we all go through, and how do we manage and thrive, yeah, within this journey. And of course, social connectedness, spending time with family and friends is so important. And I think many of us have learned this, yeah, via this pandemic. Okay, so we want to go through statement 4. Medication is enough to treat a mental health disorder. What do you guys think? I have Dwi Aini. Dwi Aini, what do you think? Is it enough to just take medication, treat a mental health condition? Yeah, Alia.
I don't think that the medication is enough to treat a mental health disorder.
Correct.
Maybe we can use treatment or something.
Yes, that's very true. Medication alone is definitely not enough. And so, like what we're talking about, right? We have all these factors, then only can we get a mental health disorder. So obviously in the recovery process, it must be a holistic approach as well, biopsychosocial and spiritual, right? Underlying issues must be addressed. Support is one of the key protective factors. Religion and spirituality is as well. So, surround yourself with, good, with a good support system, learn effective coping mechanisms. Like you said, seek other kind of treatments that you feel is suitable for you, that might help you. And not everyone that goes through a mental health struggle needs, intensive clinical intervention, as an example, right? Sometimes even if you have someone that you trust, that you can talk to, can really help, in terms of validation, right? Validating what you're going through. That in itself can really, maybe reduce a lot of that anxiety or worry or hopelessness that you're feeling, inshallah. Thank you so much, Dewey. Okay, the next statement is people with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. What do you guys think of this statement? I have maybe Aisha Nadra. What do you think? Not there. Misha Ashikin, what do you guys think? People with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. Is this true? Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, right? A lot of times we forget about the component of substance coming in, and as I mentioned earlier as well, people with mental health disorder are 10 times more likely to become victims of violent crime than the general population, which is the sad truth of it all. So I hope that we all understand that, these perceptions that we have a lot of times are stemmed from, as an example, what is being portrayed in the media. So these inaccurate portrayals of people with mental health condition really builds that perception and understanding that via the movie or via that drama that I watched or via that music video that I saw or that song that I heard, that people with mental health disorders really are violent. You know, they're dangerous. If they don't take that medication, they'll snap, you know, as an example. So we really need to be portraying people with mental health condition accurately, you know, portraying the depth of their struggles, and not focusing on, oh, the diagnosis and this is the symptoms, but rather on how people can go through these conditions and become successful. They can thrive, you can manage it, you can recover, and not further reinforcing stigma, right? So that's why people always have that perception, if you have a mental health condition, you're violent, you're dangerous, you're gonna, you know, kill another person, when in actual fact, you know, anyone can kill another person, right? And again, based on data and statistics, people like us, you know, me included, because I'm a person with lived experience myself, that we are more likely to become victims, right? Next thing is, there is no hope for people with mental health problems. Once a friend or family member develops mental health problems, he or she will never recover. And I think from what I just said, this is obviously not true. Studies have shown that, you know, people with mental health problems get better and many recover completely. Recovery refers to the process in which, you know, people are able to live, work, learn, and participate in the communities. And I think that a lot of times the definition of recovery is what um, we need to understand it fully, right? Because it doesn't mean the absence of the symptoms. Because once you have a mental health condition, you know, it's like diabetes, high blood pressure, you have it for life. But what is important for us to note and understand is, you know, with treatment, with support, with help, with having effective coping mechanisms, and especially with knowledge, you will be able to manage your symptoms and lead, you know, quality lives. Okay, I just want to show this gratitude video really quickly. Let me know if you hear it here. Okay. All right, so now we want to come to stigma and discrimination. I know I don't have much time, so really quickly, stigma is obviously the negative perception of society. With stigma, it leads to discrimination. And dangers of stigma, I think the worst thing that can happen is when you internalize stigma, you're not going to reach out for the help that you very much need and require. And when you struggle alone and in silence, you continues to struggle more, it will intensify your symptoms. You know, your prognosis obviously is not going to be good. And if you struggle with suicidal thoughts and ideation, it can intensify. And you know, the biggest thing, the worst thing that can happen is obviously ending your lives. Yeah, when suicide is 100% preventable. There's a lot of negative stereotypes and beliefs within, you know, the community or the society or people at large. And typically it relates to people with schizophrenia disorder, where they're dangerous and violent and treatment is not effective, and people can't recover. And discrimination in mental health. Again, when there's stigma, it will lead to discrimination. It will lead to injustices, and also, you know, a lot of human rights abuses and coercive treatments and practices are being implemented in Malaysia. And this is one of the things that we really advocate for at MIASA. And I would like to share a little bit of this as well. So discrimination within people that are diagnosed with mental health condition happens, you know, across all sectors, right? Healthcare, education, employment, housing, not even provided choices. They're not even able or given the autonomy to make that choice for themselves in their recovery journey. So I've provided some key takeaways from a conference that was done actually a long time ago, 2001 in Canada. It was the Stigma Conference. It was really, I think, one of the biggest stigma conference ever held. during the time. And 2 points that I would really like to point out is peer inclusion, right? The importance of including people with lived experience, either the individual themselves or their family members, could be, friends as well. When designing, services, in planning, in implementation of mental health services, and obviously in campaigns. Contact-based education, if you are fully aware that you have, a certain stigma, it's good, you're aware. Now, what are you going to do about it? So when you interact with people with mental health condition, this is where it will reduce that stigma. It will provide you insights, and you will understand better, and hopefully that translates to better support and better treatment, and we will be able to reduce stigma and discrimination as a whole. So I've included all these infographics here. And I think just really quickly, anxiety and depression, most common mental health conditions out there. Anxiety is a common emotion, but when it gets out of proportion, for example, you start avoiding things, your anxiety lasts a long time, you feel very overwhelmed, panic attack starts to happen, then you've got to do something about it, right? It doesn't mean that if you're going through a panic attack, you have a mental health condition, but if you have a mental health condition, you most probably have gone through a panic attack. And this can be really horrifying, right, guys? I know a lot of people that have gone through panic attacks just once in their lifetime, but a lot of people have experienced it via this pandemic, again, because of the uncertainties, the worry, anxiousness of being in a situation that you don't know when it ends, right? You don't know what's going to happen. You're not able to plan. So signs of panic attack could be palpitations, you feel trembling, shaking, difficulty in breathing, you feel suffocated, you feel like throwing up, going to the toilet, feel dizzy as an example. And it can, manifest, both, physical symptoms and also psychological. And it's like a sea of emotions, right? And what is horrifying about it is because it comes simultaneously in 1 second, in that particular second, and you believe that you are going to die because everything feels out of control. And that is why if we're not able to manage these panic attacks, it can, lead to a vicious, panic loop or cycle, and it can lead to a, mental health condition if, the other factors are present as mentioned. So I just want to show to you really quickly, this is a story of Julia Paxton. She has anxiety and depression and now is an advocate. And, I think many of you will be able to relate to her story.
My name is Julia and I'm 19 years old. In 2017, was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I almost lost this battle. I didn't think it was gonna get better, but it did. I've had anxiety since I was a little kid. I always had this feeling that something terrible was gonna happen, and that presented itself in tightness in my chest. I'd get really shaky. I would have a lot of stomach pain. Those were the physical ways that it came out. For the longest time, I didn't know that was my anxiety. I just knew that was something that happened to me. Around middle school, I started to get depressed, and it progressively got worse as I got into high school. Everything just seemed kind of gray. And a lot of worthlessness too. I don't have anything to offer. From the outside, I think I hid it pretty well. I was a straight-A student. I hung out with my friends. I babysat all the time. I was involved in my church youth group. I didn't let people see that there was something going on. That was what stayed closed behind my bedroom door. Things started to feel more heavy. I started to self-harm as a way to cope. I started having suicidal ideation. I told my mom, I don't think I can keep myself safe. And I know my parents were shocked when they knew how bad it actually was. It was on a Sunday night. My mom called Children's, their hotline. I was evaluated by a social worker. And I think it was honestly the first time I was completely open about what was happening. And I told my social worker that I didn't necessarily want to die, and I knew that I needed a break from what was happening, from all the things I was feeling, and death seemed like the only option. And I just remember crying to her and being like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I'm stuck. Here I was completely broken. I could barely see the point in staying alive. I felt so ashamed of myself. And these people, they just treated me like a person. I felt validated and I had some hope. And I knew that okay, when I ask for help, help is given and it works. And I knew that this break I was looking for could be found in a hospital room instead of dying. Today, I am in remission from my depression for the first time in who knows how long. I'm getting to know parts of me that aren't just anxious and depressed Julia. I'm clean from self-harm. I'm majoring in social work, and I really want to work in behavioral health with children, specifically in a crisis or inpatient setting. I started to become really passionate about advocating once I made it to the other side, because I almost didn't make it. You're not at fault for where you are right now. It's okay to be afraid, but I don't want you to give up. Because the thing about depression is it lies. You gotta fight to be here, because it does get better. And all of these lies will eventually go away. You just have to hold on, because it doesn't get to win. It doesn't get to take you. Because you're stronger than that, and you're worth more than that. And it's possible.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that gives us all a little bit more of insights and builds empathy, of the struggles that people go through. Because people with mental health condition, their struggles might not be immediately evident to the normal person. Dia bukan sesuatu yang boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar. Dan sudah tentu nak digapai dengan minda normal juga menjadi sukar kan sebenarnya. So understanding depression, just really quickly, 9 symptoms. It's quite similar to the core mental health signs that I shared earlier. But here focusing on feeling depressed or irritable almost every day for at least 2 weeks. So from these 9 symptoms, having 5 of these 9 for a minimum of 2 weeks, then there is ruling out a physical condition, then there is, a possibility that you might be going through what we call as depression, yeah? Okay, so I've also shared or included a video of a mom that is hearing impaired that went through postpartum depression. I think it's a huge eye-opener. Please look at it, and coping mechanisms, yeah. So there are videos on breathing techniques, guided imagery. For me, I feel that effective coping mechanism for me is deep breathing exercise. So you might share that. I think it's really good for all of us to learn how to do it. And of course, relaxation techniques and grounding techniques. So all of it is included here. So I want to move on to social inclusion, why it's important, because obviously if a person has a mental health condition, it's easier to be excluded, it's easier to be left behind, and we really want to head towards a more inclusive society. So it's not just about talking about the mental health space. So a larger development doorway, which I see a lot of universities do focus on today, which is the SDGs, but it's not just SDG 3 on good health and well-being, but it's actually all SDGs because it's all related, right? In terms of zero hunger, poverty, quality education, it's involving all of us. And of course, what we really want to focus on is, as I mentioned, is the Universal Human Rights Doorway, which is UNCRPD, so that people that are going through any kind of disabilities, our friends from the other disability groups, so we are all protected and we are all given our rights and we're all given equal opportunities, like how, we provide it to anyone else, in society. So deinstitutionalization is what we really want to talk about. So we want to bring people into the community because recovery is in the community, right? So there are a lot of mental institutions still standing today, not only in Malaysia, but obviously in many parts. But many countries have shifted, especially if we look at one of the models, if you guys want to read about it, is in Trieste, which they've closed down mental institutions since the 70s. They've been very, very successful. For the past 20 years, their suicide ratio, has declined. They have a 24/7 community mental centers, their forensic ward. It's an open forensic ward. So they've been able to successfully empower people and reintegrating people into society. So this is really what we want to be talking about. And when you guys have time, look at this video. I did this, I was in Trest in 2019, spoke about no restraint. And we really want to highlight the danger of forcing people into treatments, forcing people into whatever it might be, right? Hospitalization, medication, restraints, seclusion, because it creates a lot of tension. There's no data to prove or evidence to prove that it's helpful. In contrary, there's a lot of data and evidence to prove that it's actually harmful. So what I want to do here is just to show you some pictures and videos. So I just want to alert those of you that it might trigger some people, so you can go ahead and mute and also maybe just take a break for a minute where I will show you there's only just one video and a couple of pictures here of people going through restraints and also how they feel when they experience these things, okay, which is really sad. And the video and the pictures are overseas, but it also happens in our country. Okay, so this is shackling, right? So this is a type of restraint. This is also a type of seclusion, right? So when you shackle people, people can't move. You are taking away that right. You are shaming them. And imagine, being ill and then being restrained, right? Being in seclusion, being cut off. Imagine just having COVID-19 kan. Nauzubillah, siapa yang dah pernah melalui COVID-19, if you feel really ill and then people can't visit you, you don't have that support system. Imagine if you're alone. So this is really what happens when, you are going through a mental health condition. For people with severe mental health disorders, right? Being in seclusion, these are, cells that are there, present for people with mental health conditions. Sometimes you see straight jackets, they're not able to move. You see physical restraints, mechanical and also chemical restraints happening, being tied on the bed, that kind of thing, or being locked, for example, right? And not free to leave the psych ward, as an example. This is also a video. I think maybe I'm not going to show this video now since we only have a couple minutes left. When you guys have time, you may watch it and also hear the stories of people that have gone through restraints and what actually happens here behind closed doors. And so this is obviously a human rights violation. This is against UNCRPD, against many conventions out there. And I would like to end with this slide on how do we help people that are struggling, right? So we spoke about stigma, we spoke about discrimination, we spoke about deinstitutionalization, because we want to bring people back in the community, right? Recovery is in the community. We want to heal, we want to recover within our families, with our friends, with our loved ones, and with things that can help us. It might just be, going out for a walk, right? Doing whatever activities with friends that we like. Kan, nak pergi masjid ke, we want to go classes, as an example. We just want to go out for a cup of tea by ourselves, So if we are institutionalized, these things are all stripped away from us. Okay, so this is the harm of it. And no one can recover behind, the four walls. I think we all know this, especially, with what has happened with this pandemic. So the basic helping skills, there are 5 elements. Please come from a place of empathy and compassion. Please come from a mindset that it is possible. If you know that it's possible and you understand that it's possible that a person with mental health condition can recover, then they too might believe it. But if you feel and if you, express, or maybe from your gestures or your facial expressions, indicating that it's difficult for them to recover, then they know and they can see that as well. So then that whole process becomes challenging for everyone. Listen to understand and listen for emotions. Don't listen to judge, right? Don't listen to advice. As you go along that process, when that trust is built, right? When that connection and meaningful and therapeutic engagement is present, then slowly we can work work together towards that process. But in the beginning, please validate, please hold space, and treat the person, as a human being, and support one another, understand that we are all going through something, and it might be possibly different boats, although we are going through the same storm. And I think this pandemic has really shown us, one storm, different boats. And so I think this is all that I have to share today. I know it's a lot, and thank you so much everyone for listening. I truly hope it was beneficial, inshallah. And I would like to hand it over back to the moderator. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you to Puan Anita. It is very interesting session from you. So as you guys know, as we can hear from Puan Anita, it's very an eye-opening for us, especially for psychology students. And Puan Anita is sharing about the on how sick actually the mental health problem here in Malaysia, and also shares about how we can showing the sign of the mental health, so we can reach and help them also. And also we also hear about the how we can take care of our own mental health, and actually many more. So thank you so much to Puan Anita
Most welcome.
for your information, for your sharing session with us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Are there any questions, Farisha?
For me, I don't have, but if everyone have questions, just please unmute your mic.
Hello, hi, Puan Anita.
Hello.
So my name is Faraz.
You, Faraz?
So I would like to ask about, like this is like a general question, like for your association itself, which is the MIASA, how actually the MIASA, like address all the mental problems, or whatever you did mention before this, and like how MIASA can help this type of problems. So can you explain a little bit on that?
Sure. Okay. All right. Faris, thank you so much for the question. So typically, there are a couple of different scenarios when people come and reach out to MIASA. It's either they've never been diagnosed before, or they already have a clinical diagnosis, or they're going through a mental health problems that's not necessarily enough to be given a clinical diagnosis. So usually what happens is we go through a consultation process, and they would share their story first, because understanding mental health help is also something that we need to learn, because we need to help these individuals to navigate within the mental health space, because there are a lot of different services that are available, and there are also many places that provide these services, sometimes in the private setting, as an example, or even in people don't know, where do I get a referral letter, how do I see a psychiatrist? So that process in itself is something that they need to learn. So this is usually what MIASA does. So we want to break that barrier to access, and so many our essential services are free for the B40 group. And through the awareness, programs that we do, the public forums, etc., is where people can understand better, and also via the infographics that we share across. For those that follow us on social media, we do a lot of appearances on TV, radio, and also on print media, and also digital media. So obviously from there, people can get information as well. And as I shared earlier, the different services that we have. So every person is different. What we try to do as much as possible is to provide, something on the menu, so that people don't leave empty-handed. So as I mentioned, if you feel that you're not able to express yourselves, you don't want to go through counseling or peer support, and not everyone needs, again, clinical intervention, that you can go through maybe art therapy, you can go through spiritual therapy, or even our spiritual classes, or maybe dance. So these are some other alternatives and avenues that might help you as well. But what is important is for us to really understand that it must be a holistic approach. You need to change, obviously, your lifestyle. If you are not sleeping well, if you're not eating on time, if you're not exercising. So just by fixing these things can really affect that recovery process and impact it well. So you will see the positive changes just by doing that. Just by, getting enough sleep for a couple of days, you can already see, that positive change. So it's not just about, coming in and, getting something out there, but it could just be through the consultation process that might help you as well. Thank you, Faraz. Hope that helps.
Assalamualaikum Puan Anita. My name is Yasmin. I got a question, but it's like quite personal because it happened in real life. So like I got friend, she diagnosed with depression and borderline disorder. And she used to self-harm, but now she tried to cope it with smoking and drinking. So what can I do to ask her to stop coping with that thing?
Okay.
It's really concerning me because I've been friends with her for a long time.
I understand this. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for the question. I think one of the things that we really need to understand is the symptoms of the condition, right? Because especially when a person has borderline personality disorder, the chronic emptiness that they're feeling can be really debilitating. The trauma that they've gone through in their life and maybe negligence. And so there's a lot of attachment issues being involved. They feel very worthless. They feel that, people don't love them, so there's a lot of re-traumatization that happens and they're experiencing during the time. And it could be an outburst of a lot of things, anger issues, feeling very irritable, getting angry easily, kan benda-benda macam tu. So I think it's very important being the person supporting individuals that are going through this is to be there, and also create a healthy boundary. So it doesn't really mean that you need to be with the person 24/7, but it's enough just by letting the person know if anything, you're there, right? And when we're talking about coping, right? So a lot of people do cope in a harmful way. So it could be smoking, could be drinking, could be drugs. And I think that this is something that it must be dealt in a gentle manner, because the excruciating pain that they're going through, we must not don't minimize their pain, but at the same time I know that these are harmful. Just be there and then slowly work towards that recovery process. Obviously not condoning it, but they know it's wrong, obviously. But it doesn't mean that you need to constantly say that to them, but just to be in that process where eventually it will come, right, where you will be able to say, okay, maybe we can try something else, rather than drinking this, or maybe lessen it, so it must be something gradual. Dia macam harm reduction lah. It's not something like abstinence, because that's not really effective. But really providing that support, having enough effective coping mechanisms to replace the harmful ones, that is really effective. Okay, so it will take time, it takes patience, and that is why not everyone helps people, and that is also why you are the chosen one. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Ridwan.
Morning. So I'm Rizwan. So I would like to ask some question, which is, we know that listening is one of the way to show that we are concerned to them. So, but let's say if they don't want to say anything, maybe they might be involved in trauma or their previous experience. So what should we do to understand them? Thank you.
Okay. Yep. I think it's really important to not force the conversation, but revisiting it regularly. So mungkin during the time, the reason that they're not saying anything is because they're not able to. because Rizwan and everyone, when a person is in crisis ataupun in an acute condition, it's very difficult to articulate it, and it can also possibly be that they know the moment they express it that it's either you're not going to believe it, or you're going to minimize their pain, or you're going to dismiss it. Ada banyak benda. There are a lot of things that goes around, and maybe they fear it. So that's also there's actually many reasons sebenarnya why people keep silent or they're not ready to share. So for me, as a person that has gone through it before, is be consistent. And again, it's a privilege to be able to help. And so be there, let them know that if anything, you're there to listen whenever they are ready to talk about it and be open about it. You're also there. So build that trust. Lama, eventually they will open up, Rizwan, inshallah. Okay, so we need to have that patience. And again, come from that place of empathy and compassion, guys. Yeah. I think this would really help. So it's not just about putting yourself in the person's shoes, but feeling deeply as how the person is feeling, and also having empathic concern, right? Understanding what the person needs from us. And this is exactly what Rizwan is asking, right? So just by understanding these things, it will make you, orang kata, have that endurance to help. Sebab nak tolong orang bukan senang. Sebab kalau senang, semua orang tolong kan, tapi sebab benda tu susah. Especially kalau individu tu ada penyakit mental. So I hope we can all, be patient in that process, and maybe because of them, you get your ticket to Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah. Ameen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Due to the time constraint, I think we need to end the Q&A session for now.
Yep.
Thank you for Anita.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Truly hope it was beneficial. And please take care and all the best, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Thank you, everyone. Okay, I've got to go, yeah. So I will end this with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Let's build a safer and better world for the future generation and the generations that follow. Let's build back better, and let's build change better, everyone. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Puan Anita.
Bye, everyone.
before we proceed, just a quick reminder. You may go to our official Instagram account at PMAC_2022 and show your support by liking any poster that you find attractive. And now we will move on to the main part of this program. And our presenter must be very excited and nervous. But before that, I would like to introduce the honorable session chairs that will be here with us for today. So the first one is Ms. Zahra Gozan, Dr. Amalina Ibrahim, Dr. Junaida Yusof, Ms. Shazwina Muhammad Khair, and also Ms. Nurul Hidayah Muhammad Farouk. So our session chairs today consists of lecturers and PhD students from University Technology Malaysia Psychology Department. And for your information, the session chairs today are in charge of monitoring the room, evaluating the participants' paper, and as well as their presentations during the parallel session. So let's move on to the guidelines of. So we will, sorry. So the presenter must join the workout session at least 10 minutes before, and the session will be scheduled at 10:30 a.m. So the presenters are expected to turn on their mic and also cameras during their presentation. It will be conducted by our session chairs that I already mentioned before. And also, I highly encourage the presenter to display their poster or presentation slide via the WebEx share screen. And the presenters who like to display their recorded presentation must inform the PMAC committee first before the program begins. And also, all participants are given 10 minutes only to present their papers, and another 5 to 7 minutes will be given to the Q&A session, and the rest time is for break and preparation for the next participants. And additional information, our respective audience are welcome to join any breakout room through WebEx if you are interested to watch a live presentation by our presenters. You also may ask questions at the end of each presentation using the chat box or by clicking the raise hand icon. But please be respectful of the session and keep your microphone mute unless called upon. The audience may also join through FB Live, Sakit UTM, as we will share live presentation randomly from every breakout rooms. So before we end our first session today, don't forget to join our lucky draw by filling up the Google form in the chat box or comment section. The winner announcement will be made during the closing ceremony, and remember, the form will be closed at exactly at 3:10 p.m. So fill up before then. The audience may fill out the attendance form using the QR code and Google link that we've provided in the chat box of comment section, and for 10 minutes only. So only those who attend both sessions will receive our program e-certificate. So that's all for me now. We'll meet again for the second session at 3 p.m. Thank you and all the best to all participants.